First unheard message sent yesterday at 7:15 p.m.
Joe, I had an employee tell me something that completely shattered my view on leadership. You won't believe what it was. Can you meet me at the gate?
I'm Rich Levine, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real-world problems head-on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success.
I'm like so excited to see you.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Been great. It's been exciting times, learning to be an entrepreneur while also learning to be a professional coach and while also learning to care so much about my clients and watching them make progress and going deeper with them and learning all the things that means has been it's been an incredible time of growth that comes with all the things that comes with growth, and that's not easy.
No. So are you at about a year now, or is it 2 years?
About a year and a half.
Yeah,
officially.
Okay.
Yep.
Kind
I walked away from Auto IMS on July 1st of whatever, not 1 year ago, but the year before.
So Ty and I have a little inside game here we talk about with guests. Did you leave Auto IMS because somebody asked Auto IMS to send one more email?
like as in email notifications?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I got tired of taking the phone calls that say, why does the system log me out every 15 minutes? No.
Well, there's that one, and then all the emails you get. And I don't want to pick on Auto IMS. It's a beautiful system. I was using it from a very long time. And you and I met when you were at Auto IMS back when we were down in South Carolina for a meeting. It's fascinating. However, I think I would love to give it an upgrade. That's not what tonight's about, but it's just like, dang it. When it first came out, emails were great because you only got a handful of emails. Well, now you get so many emails, it's like, emails are no longer important. It's like your old junk mail. But enough about that. Go back to your growth. What fascinates me is just how we all evolve, how we all grow. I've grown, Ty's grown. We were talking about it the other night. Just us doing this podcast, how we've grown in this is year 2. So we've been doing this podcast almost as long as you've been doing that. We're on episode 45-ish, 7-ish, 9. We're hitting 50, close. It's growth. It's like, so what's the biggest misconception you see when people talk about growth or personal growth?
Oh, biggest misconception. My brain goes to 17 different places. One of the things that I love about my job is that I get to do this with individuals, do some group stuff too. But what's neat about working with individuals is you get to go really deep into their processes and their unique systems. It's a little bit different for everyone. A common theme, for example, is authenticity. That this growth should be, it should come very naturally because it should be coming into me. I should just be, and I think the misconception there is that that's an easy process. I don't know about you, but in big times of growth, if I'm going to say yes to something new, I got to say no to something, which is an easy way to say that I got to kill my ego or I got to lop my arm off or something that feels similarly violent to take a meaningful step forward in my life. And so you're saying goodbye to a behavior, an attitude, a mindset, something that's been with you for a long time that's not serving you. That's going to be growth, and you will find your more authentic self. But don't be fooled into thinking that that's going to just fit like a glove right out of the box.
No, it's definitely not. I went through a program, and I'm sure you did too as well, to get to where you're at. So what was that journey like? How did you discover you're like, well, I need to go do this? Yeah,
because coaching is an interesting path, and even that word has connotations for people, and I'm still having the conversations with people about what that means to them. But listen, I got coached up. I at the ripe old age of 35-ish or something, I was handed the keys to a team that, for all intents and purposes, was, I thought, the core, the essence of who the company was, and was really the keys to the castle, the keys to the kingdom. It was the support team. This is our window to our clients. This is the bread and butter. I've always carried around great intentions, and I've always carried around the lessons from early childhood, our first exposure to leadership. That goes from very rudimentary, telling people what to do, to then recognizing later in life that just because you come with enthusiasm, great intentions, and some ideas, doesn't mean people are going to do the thing or want to do the thing or even like you. So, as my journey evolved and Auto IMS evolved at that time, it was this wonderful incubator as a company, but for me as well as a leader. And I was given the opportunity to work with a coach, and I leaned in. I'm an open book, and I embraced it. And I learned so much from the process about myself, and that I kind of followed the water downhill from there. I said, let me learn about what coaching can bring to my style as a leader. And then I figured out that as I got some early training while I was still at Auto IMS, it became the most effective way I found to be able to lead. I start to see the light bulbs come on for others. I start to see other people have the ideas that I've been looking for to come out of them. All of these great things started happening for the people around me, and I loved it. It was great. When it came time to say, I think I want to step out and do this full time, I found a accredited program by the International Coaching Federation. I leaned into that. It was an intensive program. And I followed through on all the requirements to get the certification as a professional coach from what I think is the gold standard governing body of coaching, which is the ICF. And so that's kind of the methodology and the competency model that I follow and believe in. And that's been my path.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. So this whole podcast, what Ty and I are always doing, we always talk about, we try to take people out of the world of theories and what ifs and give some real hard skills. If you do this, here's a result you could expect. If you do that, here's the consequences of doing that behavior. We always target automotive remarketing managers is what we say. It's a podcast for automotive remarketing managers. I think I'm going to guess, taking a little bit of assumption, we know what that does, but is that a lot of your clientele? Are they automotive remarketing people?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to get started in our industry. I've got employees of auctions. I've got some young leaders in remarketing, and I'm doing some group and association work in remarketing. So the Automotive Remarketing Alliance has been a great supporter. Mark Coleman and team, who you guys are thinking about teaming up with on the podcast too. So we put together some group learning stuff and some mentorship programs as a way of kind of drumming up as well. I mean, the purpose of those programs is not to drum up business for me, but part of my involvement in that is my belief in those programs and the ability to stay connected to this industry I love so much.
So I'm a marketing manager. I'm just got promoted. I get a shot to come work with you. What should I expect?
It depends on what you want, what you're looking for, and why you're here, right? So I
want to be in charge. I want to run people. I want to run the auction. I want to be the best. I want to,
Here's Joe Miller's 5-step program to greatness.
Here's the Grant Cardone 3-ring binder book. Read all 1,022 pages, and when you're done, you'll be Grant Cardone's next person in line. Yeah.
Listen, there's a place for that, and I'm all for it. And part of the process might be finding what is your style and methodology. And if that means I'm going to lean into the John Maxwell book, or I'm going to lean into the Grant Cardone, whoever it is, that's great. My approach is not prescriptive. And so one of the things you can expect, here's the best sales pitch you'll hear all night, is that it's going to be awkward at first. Because you probably haven't done this. If you haven't worked with a real coach, we've all been coached up. We've all been directed. We've all been led. We've all had mentors in our lives. But when you sit down with a coach who wants to truly empower you, whose goal it is to evoke awareness and integrate new learning and facilitate meaningful growth, not only in the what of what you're doing, but the who of how you're doing it. Now we're into different territory, and cultivating the trust and safety to create that takes a minute, to create that environment. I've had a couple people come in to coaching with me, and they were kind of like me. They just were open books right out of the gate. And I would ask a few questions, and they realized, oh my God, no one's listened to me this way before. I'm here for it. And they go, and then things happen, and it's so cool to watch. I've got other clients that it takes an extra minute for them to get there. We got to do more of the what stuff, the context building, and building trust along the way. And everyone's on a continuum. So what to expect? Expect for me to challenge you. Expect for me to ask a lot of questions, and not for them not to all be easy. And then expect for something that's probably a little different than what you've done before in terms of exploring your own growth.
You got to get out of your comfort zone. That's pretty powerful.
Awkward. Get ready for some awkward.
I
like
mean,
that.
Sometimes there's
If
power
you
in
want
awkward.
awkward, just get Ty on your podcast.
Gee.
Well,
Where's
we have to
where's
take chances. I mean, Rich, you and I were talking about that just before Ty joined, right? Like
yes.
Ty's not afraid for whatever reason to, and I've heard him do it on the podcast, and I've heard him do it in other settings where he'll ask a question that is like whoa, where did that come from? And you can kind of see it formulating sometimes. It's like
And
you just have this natural, beautiful curiosity. And it's kind of like
Thank you.
sometimes we lose that, as kids, it comes out naturally. And a lot of times our parents beat it out of us. It's like, don't ask me one more freaking question, kid,
it reminds me of that meme I see on social media every once in a while that says, "Do it with the confidence of a 4-year-old in a Batman T-shirt." Ty can ask those questions. And my favorite Ty question is, and he asks it so genuinely and just so sincerely. So how's that working for you? And he drops it at the exact right time.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different in my approach when I have to ask that question. but in this setting it works beautifully. And you guys have the guests who can handle that for sure.
He does what you just said. He naturally coaches people by asking them the difficult, awkward questions, and now they got to think about it. And sometimes does he do it maybe when the limelight's on everybody, right? The bright lights are on, we're at a conference and he asks them? Of course. But in my opinion, and Ty and I've talked about this on other shows, and a lot more when we have our our weekly Friday calls. I work in Houston, I live in Austin, so every Friday I drive home. So Ty and I get on the phone and we talk for an hour or better. It's how we came up with the idea to do this podcast. We're like, we should start recording this crap. This is good stuff. And then he comes up with, no, go there. But now I got totally lost. But anyway, Ty and I will talk about going to conferences. It's like everybody's afraid to answer the difficult questions, probably because somebody's got an agenda, probably because they work for the big chain. They're working for the big A or the other big A, or they're working for the brand X, and they can't answer anything the way they really want. And we don't grow, we don't become better as an industry and actually solve problems because, oh God, we might get a, high level, high stakes recipe card that's got the secret on how to solve that problem. When at the end of the day, it's not about what I always say, Ty, it's not about your plans, your processes, your products, or your profits. It's about the people. So let's all get together and let's solve the problem.
What are some of the magic ingredients in your mind about getting to the heart of the people stuff?
Number one, it comes down to me, my philosophy. It's why I named my little sidekick hustle Dignity Leadership Consulting. It's about dignity. And I discovered this when I was going through the master's program at St. Ed's. I ran across a book. I was looking for specific information on how to go from being a manager and being a leader and I wanted the polar opposite dynamics to make a clear definition. I discovered this gal, her name's Donna Hicks. She's got a PhD from Harvard. And in one of her journal articles or whatever she wrote a couple books, but in there she said, there's one thing that every human being in the world wants, regardless of where they live, their color, their race, their any type of identity you can come up with. And she said it's simply dignity. They just want to be treated with respect. So now what I do, my commonplace is, and I run into them all the time. Ty and I've had conversations. I kicked another jerk out last week. You know what? I know what that guy wants. He just wants to be respected. He just wants dignity. How do I do that? But I also got to keep it with the rest of the people. So whenever I have confrontations with people, I stop and I have to calm myself down. Don't react. Let's respond. What does Joe Miller want? What does Ty Thompson want? At the end of the day, they just want to be respected. How do I give that to you? That's my focus.
Well,
that's my North Star.
It's so beautiful because you did find a foundation that I don't know how you disagree with that foundation. Now, if I sat here and said, what does Ty want? I don't know unless I ask him and create an environment in which he can tell me. And unless I ask him, I don't really know. But I can assume that, I hope that he wants some level of respect. And by the way, what a beautiful check on your own approach. What a beautiful way to do the awareness moment, take the breath and say, all right, my tendencies to go this way, my feelings are X, Y, and Z in this moment. Trigger, right?
Yeah.
Let me back up, because how are we all going to win here? I got to know what he wants. And that's got to start from a place of respect. And if I'm just coming out guns a-blazing because I'm upset that he didn't do the thing, or, I'm not sure where he is, or he's off camera and he shouldn't be off camera, I don't know, whatever, it's like, that's not gonna get us there.
Yeah. One of the beautiful things is, so my degree in leadership is behavioral science. So it's a master's of science degree in leadership and change. So it's studying human beings. And my undergrad was sociology. What I discovered when I was going through and working on this is, once you've determined that you have something in common with somebody and you vocalize it and you share it with them and they go, aha, you have 60% more likelihood chance of helping that person. So that's how I try to ground all my employees. Say, look, everybody in here walks through, they all want dignity. Okay, bam, now we've got one thing in common. And then I start talking about the team. What do you have in common? Hey, you're working at the same address. Your paycheck comes from the same place. We know the same people. And you start getting everybody to understand that we got so much in common. Then what it does is, I think what I started to hear a little bit from you is triggers, right? Triggers create conflict. Well, how do we resolve conflict? We got to move away, go back to like when you're doing, I had an old HR guy ask me if I'd been through like union training before. And I'm like, no, why? And he goes, because you figured out how to move away from positions and get to what the end goal looks like. At the end of the day, what do we all want, right? Let's get away from the position. No, you have to do it that way. No, I want to do it this way. No, you need to pay me this. No, I'm going to pay you that. Get away from the position. What do we want at the end of the day? We want, in a union case, it's a better work environment. Now let's have the conversation. How do we get there? Instead of going, hey, you need to pay me more.
I've got this theory. It's one of these things that I've heard it expressed kind of in different ways, but you're making me think of it because, a lot of the coaching methodology is around, let's not solve the wrong problem. We spend a lot of time solving the wrong problem. That's kind of what you were just talking about. We haven't really got, and that was my whole thing at AutoIMS too, is with our clients. Clients would come and say, hey, I need you to build a bridge from here to there for the data, which great. That'll be $8,000. You build the bridge and then no one ever goes across it and they say that's not what we wanted. You didn't ask them enough questions. You were solving the wrong problem. The client couldn't even articulate it, right? My theory is that we often attribute our outcomes. Part of the reason this happens is because we often attribute our outcomes to the wrong reasons. We take too much credit. We don't give credit where it's due. We don't understand all the factors factoring into why the thing is happening the way it's happening. I'm speaking in broad brushes, but there's something in me that wants to do that research, to go figure out what outcomes people are having and what they think are attributing to those outcomes that are most important to them, and kind of reverse engineer how they got there and how often we're wrong about what it is that caused that outcome.
Yeah. Now you're giving my brain thinking. The other fascinating thing is you stop and think, okay, how many assumptions do we make in a day when we're having a conversation because we believe we already know that the outcome that you want and that Ty wants and I want are exactly the same? And the chances of that happening without asking enough questions are slim and none. And that's where we go so wrong with communication. It's like, you got to keep asking another one. And you hit it too. It's like, are we going after the symptom, or are we trying to get to the root of the problem that's causing the symptoms? Like, I need data. I need this bridge built. Okay, well, why do you need the data? What are you trying to solve? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
And then Ty can ask,
built, what will happen?
Yeah. How's that working for you?
Not working. That's funny.
And I've been on a real strategy kick lately, and it just seems to tie in. You talk about how many assumptions do we make? How many decisions do we make? And you see this, I see this with leaders all the time. Either we get paralyzed and we're reticent to make the decision for all sorts of reasons, or we get really good at making decisions and really comfortable in cleaning up the messes that happen later. And so we just go. And it just feels like there's a lot of room in between those two poles for our decision-making process to become more strategic and well thought out. And I gotta believe that there's agency, there's greatness in the agency of others here. The problem is we get trapped into believing that we should just be able to make this decision. Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm not making the call for consensus for everything here. We're leaders. We have to make decisions sometimes. But being more strategic and understanding where we can tap the expertise around us, all around us, seems like something that wouldn't be too harmful to us.
And then it goes back to having to understand the why, right? I mean, everybody should know the what, right? So automotive remarketing, what are we doing? One way or another, we're trying to sell cars or buy cars, whatever it is. If you're on the buying side, you're trying to buy. So we're trying to move metal. We'll just leave it at that. Auto remarketing, what are you trying to do? Move metal. That's the what. Then you got the next thing. How are you doing it? Well, in auto remarketing, there's several ways to do it. We got digital platforms, you got in-lane platforms, you got hybrid platforms, right? You can hand sell it, you can do whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But then you get down to the very final question that helps make the decision process easier, and it's why. Why are we doing this? And if you don't paint the picture of why and give that vision to your people, then I think we have a phenomenon that I've recently discovered that I call decision fatigue. Oh my God, if I do this, what's going to happen? And you're not grounded, right? So, and I kind of stumbled on this because I've kind of built my own little niche that Ty helped me name. We call it value-based leadership. And I go off of 4 values: trust, hope, humility, and empathy. And now trust, hope, humility, empathy. You can think of it as there's 2 H's. We do this at work all the time with my team. And we ask ourselves, like, we have a problem to make a decision. All right, a new customer, a new seller wants to come in and sell cars with us at the auction. Yeah, we want them, right? Money, 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 metal, metal, metal. Is this customer going to help us build trust with everybody? Yes. Okay, well, that's good. Are they going to be humble? Yeah, they're going to be humble. We can do this. Are they going to help us create hope? Like, they bring more cars and they'll get more people. We'll get people excited. We create some energy. Yeah, they're going to do it. Okay, can they be empathetic? Can they like work with us and understand we're real human beings and not robots? Yeah, they are. Great. Then we're going to go hire them. Let's go get a contract with them. Let's hammer this out. Now, if you run across any no's in that, we need to have a hard check with ourselves. Why? We don't want it just for the money. And then we start doing this. And I do this with all of them. All right, we're going to hire an employee. Go through the check. Is it going to hit the things? And the people come in and go, wow, this is really easy. I made a decision. I said, yep, decisions made easy. The problem is we got to go execute it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're eliminating decision fatigue because we're painting that vision. Here's what we're building.
Look, as you go to execute, you're going to have more decisions to make. What capabilities and systems and all of that stuff do you need in place? And if you can get anchored, and I call that the winning aspiration, that why. But that, I also understand that, Rich, your why on the earth might be subtly different than mine, which might be subtly different than Ty. Even if the winning aspiration is to help create, if we could agree on something like help shore up the next generation of leaders in the remarketing industry, that kind of thing, right? So what can we agree on? I think you're absolutely right. I love your model.
It's kind of simple. I kind of stumbled into it. There was some luck there, a lot of conversations, but.
See, you're being very humble, which is beautiful, but being honest about this is an outcome, right? And so, who gets responsibility for it? A little bit of luck, a little bit of camaraderie and teamwork with Ty and others,
and a lot of mistakes.
Yes. You mean you didn't do it just because you're a brilliant leader and you've got that fancy education and diploma on the wall?
Well, you touched on that earlier, and every once in a while, I got a good friend that nicknamed me Retro Rich. So every once in a while, I need a little retro rich once in a while. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, you just got to go at them hardcore sometimes to just get stuff done. I'm like, oh, I so want to get over that because retro rich was unaware. I thought every answer I had was the right answer. Nobody could do it any better than me because, by God, I'd done it once before. So here it is. Let's just go do it. And then all of a sudden, I started reading and learning and just opening up and going. I was struggling. True story. General sales manager comes walking into my office and shuts the door. And I was on to something. I wasn't stupid. I'm not just the smartest guy in the world, but I wasn't 100% stupid. And I kept telling everybody at my manager's meeting, if I keep doing what I'm doing and you don't tell me any different, and you expect something as a better result or a different result, that's the definition of insanity. I said, I need feedback. I'm just like every other human being. You got to give me feedback. But you also have to learn how to take the feedback. So anyway, one day it took courage, took a lot of months of courage. In walks the general sales manager. And she looks at me and she shuts the door and she's got this grin, this just, I'm going to eat your lunch grin, just like, I can see it right now as I'm telling this. She said, you wanted feedback? I said, yeah, I need feedback. Hit me. You know those spreadsheets you look at and you tell us what our budget is and how many cars we're selling? You call and find out what the conversion is, and then you're calculating how much we're going to make? I said, yeah. She goes, that's awesome and great, but do you care about us? And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, I care about you all the time. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. I'm trying to get you to your bonus. She goes, Rich, you're missing the whole point. I said, what? She goes, have you ever come over to ask us how we're doing, or if you can get us lunch or anything, or thank us, congratulate? And I stopped and I thought, and I'm like, nope. It was big old piece of humble pie smashed right into my face. And it was eye-opening. So I learned I had to become aware. And that's when I started to go back to school and said, all right. And and I'm not going to try to pick on them, but I'm going to pick on them. So being in a big corporation, you got to have processes, you got to have rules, and everything comes down. It's like, this is how you do it. This is how many cars you sell. I need this report. Did you look at this email? Did that customer? And that's all you hear all day long. And I believe in the disc model, and I live in the things world. So as I was hearing things, I'm eating it up. Well, they helped me shift to go, hey, there's the other side of this model where people live, and you need to figure out how to get over there. It's like, damn. So
talk about an empathy awakener for you. Again, here's a guy who cares about his people and operationally focused, and you're doing your thing, but it just didn't hit. You needed that wake up call. What a beautiful awareness, the name of my business, right? Awareness to action. And then how you chose to integrate that awareness into forward movement. Use DISC, whatever it takes to unlock more knowledge about what your people need and want, and then how you need to show up to enable that.
So what's your go-to tool to unlock more knowledge from people?
I put a bright light in their face. You've talked. No, I actually, for a long time, have been using a tool called Perrin. They're rebranding as Iris right now, but I've been partners with them for a long time, and it's the biggest investment I made, other than my education and coaching, since I hung my own shingle. And I've done many of these now, but it measures 100 attributes, and it's not as clear cut, I would say, as DISC, but these things are more malleable. And so I'll give you an example. Something that you made me think of is there's this one of the attributes in there, and it actually shows up as one of the 15 drivers. It's called deference. How can deference, just like what it sounds like, the drive to admire, support, be loyal to others, how does that show up as a motivator for people? And then, just like anything that's sort of an inborn strength for you, where does it get in your way? And so when you see leaders coming up through the ranks and excelling, and they're doing a good job of managing up because they defer a lot or whatever, given more and more responsibility, all of a sudden they're finding themselves higher up on the heap. How does deference work when you're managing others, when you're having to have difficult conversations? Can you be an effective leader and still serve? And so that deference driver. And the answer is yes. You just have to be aware that it's there and how it's showing up for you. So something as simple as that, it shows up all the time, But I love those assessments for that. I won't name names, but another one of those drivers is a fun word called flamboyance. That word has connotations. And so I sat down with a relatively young, very straight, quintessential man's man of an auction leader, and told him his number one driver was flamboyance. Hold on, game over, I'm out. And I said, I get it.
Out for you?
How'd that work out for you? I get it. I said, we have to get comfortable with language. And so that's another one of those tool sets is, boy, have I gotten really, really particular about the words people use and how they use them, divining the truth about a person. And by the way, 30 minutes later, he was all in. He goes, I'm not going to wear this on my name badge with that word, but I understand how that shows up for me, how it's a driver, how it works for and against me. And he wanted to continue to embrace that awareness and integrate it in his style going forward.
Yeah.
If that answers the question, I started rambling.
No, that was awesome. One of the things I want to touch on is the language you use creates the future you want. So the language you use creates the future you want. And what happens with the human brain for the most part is we talk in historical tense, right? What did I learn? How do I use that knowledge? So if I ask you a question or ask anybody a question, usually the first thing they do is they go back to their filing system and go, oh yeah, I've heard this before. This is the answer, blah, 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 blah. So now if you can shift your language and start talking about a new future, creates hope. And then now you start to move, and that's what happened here. So he doesn't have to use the word, but what you did is you got him start using different language to create hope, to create a different future, and he had an aha moment. But now the key is you can't just do that once. How do you keep repeating that and going and going and going? And I think that's where a lot of growth comes from. And I challenge my team all the time. Quit, think about what you're saying. And I tell them all the time, my number one go-to is stop speaking victimese. Nobody in here is a victim, okay? We're not speaking victimese today. I tell them, you know what? We're owned by a Canadian company, so we can do stuff. We're Canadian owned, right? We're all working in America, right? So we're all Americans. And I said, being down here in South Texas, I know we have a lot of Mexican influence. Those are Mexicans that are helping us. I didn't have any victimese in here. So if you're a victimese, you need to leave. They're getting
Go
the
to
message.
that country in Asia.
We're getting to it. I don't even tell them. I just tell them victimese doesn't even exist. You leave, go out the door and go find it. And when you find it, come back and tell me how it is.
Can I ask you a question about that? And just my understanding, and you've got more of the education in the sociology and everything you've studied. But my understanding is that what comes just before the thoughts, which lead to the words, are the emotions. And I have found that you want to call them emotions or feelings, you use those two words, and luckily you guys don't do it because you kind of live in this world a bit, right? But most times in a remarketing setting, you throw one of those words out and there's like a switch. You can almost see it in the room, like, oh God, like not a safe place right now, not in a group, I'm not thinking about it. I don't want to go there. And I live in emotional currents. So what's the opportunity for us? And do you even agree that there's typically some feeling that leads to either the victimese or whatever the words that are coming out? And how do we get people to embrace this idea that you have an emotional current too, whether it comes out or not, it's in there and it's driving what you do somehow? How can we help that work for you authentically, right? Am I speaking crazy now? Or?
And so let me try to get this down to a third grade level, because I don't know I can explain it even any higher than that. Human beings are driven. We're emotional creatures. We're driven. We live on emotions. We're not logical creatures. But now we get into the work setting and the workplace. To our good friends in the automotive industry, Henry Ford invented the assembly line, and that's scientific management. But that's where they started putting all this logic in. Guess what? Logical day, you're going to work from 9 to 5. Logic, you're going to put this part on 500 times today, and we're going to make it so easy that a knucklehead can do this. And we've moved so far as a society, and management is a relatively new term. It's only been around since the Industrial Revolution. And we're force placing that. In automotive industry, in my opinion, is still 15 to 20 years behind everybody else. We don't understand in the automotive side that we are emotional creatures, and the language we use can trigger emotions. And and we're supposed to be automotive industry, from what I can understand. We're supposed to be these macho salespeople, right? You need a car, I can help you, we can get all this. It's like, but hang on a second. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And we need to figure out a way how to ground ourselves and have that emotional touch and stop getting offended when somebody says something that you don't understand. I think that's the biggest piece is, do you understand what it is we're really talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. And then that same person is going to go home to their 6-year-old daughter and their wife or whatever. And you're not going to bring any emotion to that situation. I just think integrating that part of the conversation, and maybe that's coming back to the beginning of our conversation, is why you're helping me think through my own practice here is why things can get a little bit awkward at first, and it's tenuous as you build that trust in that relationship. But I do find in the one-on-one coaching setting, I love when people start to open up and they're really able to it's amazing the new stuff that people have inside them that they just haven't verbalized, and the magic that happens as a result of that. And so much of that is steeped in their relationship to the issue, not just the issue itself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversations help to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.